What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here. Welcome to our daily show where we discuss everything going on here in our country, in Washington, D.C., with stimulus check update, the fourth stimulus package update, daily news, money investing, the stock market. We cover it all here on our YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed yet to our YouTube channel, make sure to click the subscribe button right now so you don't miss out on new videos. It's completely free to do so. I will keep you up to date here with everything you need to know about. And as always, thanks for hitting the like button for us as well. A lot of Americans are wondering, how is this Russia-Ukraine conflict going to hurt Americans in our pocketbooks, with Russia being one of the world's largest producers of oil and natural gas and gasoline. It could be worse than what we think. Check this out.
President Biden ordering tough new sanctions on Russia in retaliation for what he calls an invasion of Ukraine. The growing crisis could have serious financial fallout for Americans. CNN's Brian Todd is working this part of the story for us. Brian, the president talked about gas prices specifically, but the impact could go beyond that.
It could, Wolf, but tonight the concerns of many Americans are centered on the gas pump. A senior administration official says today's sanctions were targeted to impact Russia's economy, not the U.S.'s, and that they're designed not to affect oil prices. Still, the president is warning Americans they could feel some pain. Tonight, President Biden's message to Americans: the escalation in Ukraine and the sanctions he's imposing on Russia as a result could hurt you in the wallet.
As we respond, my administration is using every tool at our disposal to protect American businesses and consumers from rising prices at the pump. As I said last week, defending freedom will have cost.
Pain that's already being felt at the pump.
It's like my second biggest expense to food. Gas is just out of control.
Russia is a major oil producer, second only to the U.S. If a conflict in Ukraine damages oil infrastructure, if sanctions are placed on Russia's oil sector, if Vladimir Putin decides to halt exports in retaliation, gas prices in the U.S., already at an 8-year high of $3.52 per gallon for regular, could spike.
The last time we saw oil prices that high was about 2014, and that translated into gas prices of about $3.70 something per gallon. So you could imagine you'll see something similar today.
Other prices for energy could rise as well.
Think about heating your home. Think about keeping the lights on. Things like a plane flight are going to get more expensive. Driving to work is going to get more expensive.
Overall, inflation could get worse as businesses raise prices to offset higher energy costs, and some goods or materials may see price volatility. And interest rates could also go up faster.
When interest rates go up, your debt payments on everything from your home to your car to education to really any kind of debt you might have, credit card debt, that all goes up.
And markets could see a stock sell-off, as they did today, so people's 401ks could drop at least temporarily. Another concern, possible cyber attacks if Putin retaliates for sanctions. The Colonial Pipeline hack in the U.S. last year shows hackers can easily disrupt America's economy. Just one attack on one company caused a price spike. Panic buying set in, and many East Coast gas stations ran out.
The Americans will feel that very imminently because it'll affect their access to power, to water. It'll affect their emergency services. That's a very big escalation if the Russians choose to do it. People's access to immediate cash and payments could be interrupted.
To prepare for possible economic fallout of a Russian invasion, if that happens, the experts we spoke to say there are a couple of things you can do. If you have debt like high-rate loans for your home, car, or credit card, try to pay those down. Put off purchases of big-ticket items like appliances. And for people who invest, just don't take big chances in the market. Wolf?
Good advice indeed. Brian Todd reporting for us. Brian.
CNN's Christine Romans, our chief business correspondent, joins us now with a look at where and how this could have an impact.
Good morning, John. You know, Putin's vice grip on Ukraine gripping global markets. Markets trying to catch their breath this morning after the S&P 500 slid into an official correction yesterday, a correction that's a 10% drop from the recent record high. The uncertainty stoked by potential war in Eastern Europe ricocheting from stocks to grain prices to the oil market. The question now, will new sanctions from the U.S. and Europe stop Putin's aggression or further feed into the global inflation picture? With allies, President Biden sanctioned two big banks and began cutting off Russia from Western finance. And this is just the beginning. The White House says more depends on Putin. Germany halted certification of that Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline that would connect Germany with Russia. It's dramatic because the EU depends on Russia for more than a third of its natural gas. A crisis in Europe has implications for everyone, John. It's a global market for energy. Any supply disruption from fighting or from sanctions could raise prices further. Gas prices in the U.S. already above $3.50 a gallon on average, up 20 cents in the past month. You can expect $4 nationwide by the summer. Now, President Biden pledged to use every tool to blunt gas prices, but he acknowledged they are coming. And it's not just energy. Food costs could also rise. Russia is the world's largest supplier of wheat. Ukraine is called Europe's breadbasket. It's not far behind. Together, those two countries make up a quarter of global exports. Ukraine is also a top exporter of corn and barley and rye. Putin's misadventure in Ukraine comes at a time when global inflation already running hot in the U.S. at a 40-year high. Of course, it will be the Fed that will have to be aggressive to fight that inflation, even as Putin is being aggressive in Eastern Europe.
Yeah, so the question here is, how bad is this going to get? How long is this crisis over there going to be? What's going to happen after this crisis? How bad is it going to affect us here in the United States? How high is the price of gas going to go? As well as, is it going to raise inflation even further? Because if gas goes up, inflation goes up because the price of gas goes up. That affects inflation directly because of gas. And when gas goes up, it affects the price of almost everything else. The price of groceries, the price of food, the price of anything sitting on the store shelves, because all that stuff needs to be delivered via truck, via plane, via ship, however it gets there, via truck at the bare minimum. Even if it's produced in the USA, it still has to be trucked from the factory in the USA to the store. So if the price of gasoline goes up, even if it's gasoline produced in the USA, you even heard on that video, USA is the #1 producer of gas. So even if it's gasoline produced in the USA, gas is a global market, okay? So gasoline is traded on the stock exchange worldwide, and gas is just kind of, it's traded. So when the price of gas goes up, it's kind of hard to explain, but when gas goes up, it goes up worldwide. It's a supply and demand issue. So even if we don't buy a drop of oil from Russia, it's just kind of how things are. By the way, Google says that 8% of oil imports, the U.S. oil imports, come from Russia. So basically about 8% of our oil and gas comes from Russia, an average of 22 million barrels per month. So 8% of our oil and gas comes from Russia, okay? So theoretically, we could stop that if we had to or needed to. Now, that would cause the price of gas and oil to go up. Some people say we should do that because we shouldn't be buying oil and gas from Russia, but that would cause the price of oil and gas to go up. But here's the interesting thing, though. The U.S. actually exports oil. They export oil. In 2020, okay, so this is just the most recent data that Google gave me here from the government, okay, EIA.gov. So this is underneath Trump still, okay. The United States, underneath former President Donald Trump, in 2020, the U.S. exported 8.5 million barrels of petroleum to about 174 countries and U.S. territories. About 38% of U.S. gross petroleum exports in 2020, okay? So what's interesting here is even underneath Trump, okay, the U.S. is exporting oil. The U.S. is exporting oil. So yeah, we take in 8% of our oil from Russia, but we're sending out 38% of our oil and being sold worldwide. Now, you got to remember here, though, as we're kind of going through this isn't necessarily all up to Biden or Trump. It could be, though. But you got to remember, though, that all the gas companies are in play here as well. Exxon, Chevron, BP, right? All those companies are the ones actually selling the oil and stuff here, buying, selling, drilling, okay? You got to factor that in here, okay? But when they're drilling it in the US, they could decree that they will not be able to sell that. I believe they can do this until the U.S. has satisfied all its needs. So they can do things like that. They can do congressional mandates and stuff like that if needed. If needed. So if push comes to shove, and like Russia, we go to war with them, or we don't want to buy from them, or we're forced to not buy from them, that 8% of oil, if we get shut off from them, or we decide to not buy from them or anything like that, that would cause the price of gas to go up in the US. It just would, okay? So let's say the price of gas goes up. But the other thing is here is that we also could decide to not export 38% of our gas. Maybe we decide to only export 30% of our gas or 20% of our gas, keep more of it here at home. And again, this is not necessarily a Biden thing or a Trump thing, because remember, that data was from Trump from 2020 when he was president, okay? Whether they do this through a congressional mandate or however they decide to do this, they could keep more of our oil here at home and make ourselves more energy independent. They can do this just by not selling more oil overseas. But remember, the gas companies are in play here. BP, Chevron, Exxon, all those major companies here are in play here because they're selling. It's not the U.S. It's not it's not Biden or the Democrats or the Republicans. It's not Joe Manchin or Mitch McConnell that's selling it. It's the gas companies. But they can mandate it, I believe, through congressional order, because it's actually bought through the United States land here. So that is something that may or could be done in the future. So just let me know your thoughts on something like that. But something like that may or need to be happen here with Russia, and the whole inflation thing with us here going forward. But if we decide to not buy from Russia, the initial reaction, or if we have to not buy from, or they decide to not sell from us, any of those situations, gas would spike up. It's 8%, so you could look at it if it's not a lot or it is a lot. I don't know. Do you consider 8% of our gas and oil a lot, or a little, kind of a medium amount? But it would be enough to send the price of gas up. And of course, everybody makes a big deal about it. Remember, we send out 38% of our gas and oil to other countries. So we could just not send out as much, use it here at home, and boom, we're energy independent. We're the #1 producer of oil in the world. We just need to not sell as much of it off. Meanwhile, as you can see here, there's a large effort underway to revive the monthly stimulus checks, as Entrepreneur.com or Entrepreneur Magazine here says. I used to get Entrepreneur Magazine, actually. Now I don't actually get any magazines because it's all online. As the child tax credits, they're what they're talking about here. But also, there's actually a push for monthly checks for adults as well, known as the EITC, the Earned Income Tax Credit, which is actually for low-income adults. It's actually the adult version of the child tax credits. So there's actually efforts underway to revive the monthly stimulus checks known as the child tax credits, because honestly, you can get the child tax credits without working at all. Some families get them literally just for having a kid without doing anything else. I mean, you don't, in some cases, don't need to have a job. You don't need to work. You don't need to do anything but have a child. So in some cases, it's literally the definition of a stimulus check on a monthly basis, right? And really, there's a large push underway for a version of these monthly checks as well for adults as well. I believe the child tax credits cost about $200 billion last year, if I'm correct. I'd have to look up the exact number off the top of my head. But remember, there's about $800 billion of unspent stimulus money. And there's actually several different states that are sending out extra checks to adults. I went over in a recent video for both of those groups. Remember, there's the child tax credits, and then there's the adult tax credits known as the earned income tax credits for low income adults. Okay. There's multiple different states sending these out. If you've been watching my channel here on a daily basis, you know, I've been literally covering this here. All sorts of different states sending out different sets of money here. Stimulus checks on the state level, extra bonuses for children, child tax credits on the state level, adult tax credit money on the state level. That's for low income adults. It's called a adult tax credit. We have state stimulus checks. We have state stimulus programs. We have tax rebates. We have states getting rid of or pausing their gas taxes. So many different programs. If you've been watching my channel, you kind of realize this. If you're new to my channel, you need to subscribe right now because it's completely free to do so. Just click the subscribe button down below. But there's also a big push going on here for adult tax credits. So, okay, so let me go back here a second. So number one, we have states doing extra bonuses here right now for two things. Child tax credits on the state level. We have multiple different states that have done, let me see if I can bring it up here. Yeah, so I found it here. 8 different states with their own child tax credit programs. And I'll have to see if I can find you, if I can find for you and some details about states that have their own adult tax credit as well. Let me show you this here. You can get up to $1,000 per child here. State number one, Californians who have low income and work and qualify for in California. If you do and you have a child under age of 6, you may be eligible for the young child tax credit. Up to $1,000 each is available to families who earn under $25,000, while those who earn up to $30,000 get a reduced credit in California. So that's $1,000 per child in California. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. 2, Colorado is rolling out a new child tax credit this year that is similar to federal support. How much you get depends on income and filing status, but the credits are fully refundable, which means they will send you a check whether you owe them money or not. It will be available to Colorado residents to claim on their 2022 Colorado income tax return when they begin filing in January 2023, so that's for next year. This will be available to incomes with less than $75,000 or $85,000 for married filing jointly. You can get between 5 and 30% of the federal CTC for each child. Idaho families can get $205 per child. It's non-refundable, meaning it will reduce the amount of tax you owe. The credit was originally $130, but has now been expanded. Illinois, households with kids below 17 can get extra child tax credits worth $100 per child. Maine, households can get an extra $300 per qualifying child thanks to the dependent exemption tax credits. Maryland residents with an AGI of less than $6,000 can get an extra $5,000 per child in state child tax credits. Credits are available to families with kids below the age of 17. So again, an extra $500 per child. New York offers support as well. This is a refundable credit. There's several different qualifications, as you can see here on the screen. The New York child tax credit amount is the greater of 33% of the federal child tax credit, or $100 multiplied by the number of qualifying children, whichever is greater. So that can definitely add up. Oklahoma families can get 5% of the federal child tax credit In addition, the credits are non-refundable. So there's a lot of different states here that offer extra benefits here, extra benefits. I'll see if I can dig up an article about extra benefits for adults as well, for the adult tax credits on the state level. But meanwhile, there's a large push for two things. Number one is an extension of the monthly checks for the child tax credits, and also to expand the adult tax credit, the earned income tax credit for low income adults, which you can claim on a tax return for 2021, now here in 2022, for low income adults. But they want to expand that like the child tax credit got expanded and pay monthly checks to low income adults. So if you are a low income adult, a senior on fixed income, on Social Security, disability, or anything like that, remember exactly what they did with the child tax credits is they started paying out monthly checks. Okay, they can also do that for low income adults and expand the adult tax credits as well. Now, the child tax credits cost about $200 billion a year. So, and remember that goes out to 60 million children. There's about 60 million adults on Social Security, just as an example here. So ironically, it's around the same amount of number. 60 million children on child tax credit, 60 million adults on Social Security, just as, two examples here, okay? It wouldn't be just Social Security for low income probably, but I'm just kind of using two examples here, okay? But the child tax credits with the monthly checks cost about $200 billion, okay? So they could send out monthly checks and use that $800 billion that's already approved with stimulus money. Okay, remember Stimulus Package 1 and Stimulus Package 2 underneath former President Donald Trump, and Stimulus Package 3 underneath Biden. There's $800 billion there. And they could use this money potentially to pass the child tax credits and a monthly check for adult tax credits and not even need to fund any new money, because the child tax credit costs around $200 billion, and then the adult tax credits, there'd be enough money to fund both of this, send out support to everybody in need basically, and not even spend any new money. This is money that's been already allocated, already approved, already added to the national debt, and thereby already accounted for inflation, so it really wouldn't add anything to inflation. It's already been money that's printed, already been approved by Congress. They wouldn't need to print any new money, and they could basically just send it out. So let me know your thoughts on this here. And as always, I will keep you up to date here in the loop with everything you need to know about. We'll be discussing this going further here on my show, so make sure to subscribe down below, and I will keep you up to date here. There's so many different states sending out money here as well, and I'll keep you up to date with everything going on here in our country, this whole Russia situation, and what's going to happen here. The president's actually going to have a big State of the Union address here on Tuesday as well. So make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you haven't done so, it's completely free to do so. It's just so you won't miss out on new videos. After subscribing, click the bell icon so you get reminders when we go live, and also help us reach 400,000 subscribers. We're trying to get there. We're 399,000 subscribers. So you can also click here to watch my newest video next. And this video here is a big video I just did about Social Security raises with a new bill in Congress. So click on one of those videos next. Thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you in the next video.